I am Karen, and I am a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet. I write them down and I commit them to my sponsor. I eat only those things I commit, and I don't eat in between no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing I do every day for myself, and one day at a time, it is saving my life. My abstinence date is February the 1st, 2022. Um, and again, thank you. I got some time. I got time all messed up. Time is weird for me. I never, after my kids all got out of school, I never knew what time of year it really was unless I looked out the window and if it was, but I live in Oregon. So if it's raining, that's no big deal. It can rain whatever, you know. So I just didn't know, and time has just been really weird. So getting these time zones correct, and I was supposed to qualify at a meeting that started at 4, and I had it written down as starting at 3. And so I thought, no big deal. 3 to 4, then 4:30 to 5:30, I'm good. Well, that's not how it worked. It was started at 4 till 5, and so anyway, I got it done. And in the past, before Gray Sheet, I would have probably just not shown up for either one. I would have, when if somebody had said anything to me, I would have gone, "Oh, really? Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. I just didn't realize. Oh, my oh, you know, and lie and fake, and that's what I did. I didn't I wasn't honest about a lot of things. Always thought I was pretty honest. I worked 37 years for the Oregon Department of Corrections, and honesty is very highly, you know, respected and expected. And I didn't have any trouble there, but as long as I was at work, I thought I was fine, and as soon as I would leave work, my life was a mess. And I grew up rurally in Oregon. I uh, my dad was a logger, my mom a stay-at-home mom, a rageaholic, and well, who would occasionally hit, and I never knew when that was going to happen. And so I learned to not, and because all emotions were bad in my home, I didn't learn how to handle any kind of emotion. And so when you're, you know, 70 plus and learning about emotions, it can be scary. It can be a very difficult sort of thing. So I wouldn't be doing it if I was not abstinent. I could not deal with this emotion because half the time I don't even know what it is. It's just this whoosh of something and trying to figure out what it is. And I am so grateful for these meetings because I learn from all of you and I go, "Oh, is that what I was feeling? Wow, what about that?" And then I can think about it and I can work through it and everything. And I've learned to be present being abstinent. I never was really present for my kids or for myself or for anybody else. I was always just hidden. I was always, like with my head in the sand. I didn't want to feel, I didn't want to do anything. All I wanted to do was eat, which is what I did. I and well, and talk. I That's what I do best, I say oftentimes. But it's I'm an extrovert and being with people, and that's how I got through and away from things, as I was always around people, always having people at my house, always at somebody else's house, always doing stuff, having this kind of a thing, and it was all around food. And it was that way from the time I was little. Anytime there was a holiday, we had these big food things, and not even though the food was very, for me, was very tightly um, dished out. I couldn't just eat whatever. And thank you, Tara. Um, so I learned a whole lot of bad coping skills throughout my life because I didn't understand or know about feelings or emotions or how to deal with anything. I had this structured thing. I was my job was a coordinator, and if it couldn't be coordinated, it couldn't be done because I could take anything and coordinate it and make it happen. That was my job with corrections, and I did it a lot. But when I was in a car accident the last of October of 2019, I my car was totaled and I sprained both of my thumbs. My two boys were in the car with me. None of us were hurt seriously. I think the sprained thumbs were probably the worst injury to recover from that I've ever had because you cannot do anything. You can't pull your pants up. You can't brush your teeth. You can't do anything without your thumbs. And trying to learn to do things without your thumbs was a mess. And I live alone. So, there was nobody to holler for and come do this, come do that. So, it was pretty hard. And because of that, every bad thing that had ever happened in my life was right in front of my face. Every trauma I had ever experienced, every bad decision I'd ever made, every abuse that I'd ever suffered was all right there. And I was hysterical half the time. If somebody was happy, I cried. If I just could not. The emotion was so big, it was so overwhelming that it just took over my life. And I finally contacted my health care provider, and they got me connected with a trauma informed counselor, and we did EMDR, and it changed my life. It didn't change my eating, but it changed my life. It got the trauma and the abuse into a place where I could learn to deal with it. And I firmly believe today that if I hadn't done that work, I would have never been able to do the work of Gray Sheet, because I just would not have been able to see that I was a compulsive eater or admit that I was a compulsive eater, to admit that I was a mess and that my life was a mess. And I I couldn't do that. I had to pretend that everything was wonderful and that there was nothing wrong, and that I was a-okay. So I decided right after that. I know they say when you've been injured or anything, you're not supposed to make big decisions, but I decided to sell my 1,850 square foot manufactured home and move into a tiny home, which was the best decision I've made in a long time. I love my tiny home. I love the community I'm in, and it's perfect for me. And um, and if I didn't believe that my higher power was working on my behalf before I moved in here, very shortly after I moved in, I had GreySheeters move in on each side of me. I didn't even know what Gray Sheet was, but they moved in, one on the right and one on the left, a couple on my right and a lady on my left. And it was like I was seeing these people happy and living their lives and walking around. I'm walking on a walker. I can't even go to the garbage without putting the garbage on my walker and pushing with my walker. And I'm I can't. Going up and down the steps was horribly painful, and I couldn't even use my loft area because I could not get up and down the steps. If I got up, I would just stay up there for hours because coming down was horribly painful. And so I just didn't use it. And so I just was a mess. And I would go to the refrigerator, and it'd be full of food. My cupboards would be full, and I would go, I don't want any of this. And so I'd go to my nearest favorite fast food place and I'd get something for my dinner. And then I'd go buy another one and go, oh, I think I can get that and have that for lunch tomorrow. And then another one, oh, I can get that and have that for dinner, and bring it home and, put it carefully away, and then eat my dinner, and then by bedtime, it's all gone. I've eaten it all. And I did that day after day, week after week, month after month. I just ate. And when I cooked huge amounts so that I could eat as much as I wanted, when I wanted, and everything. I never got into the habit of eating in the middle of the night, but such as it is, I was very compulsive with my food. Never normal around food, ever. Either totally depriving myself in some kind of diet, some kind of plan that I never could be honest with, I could never stick to. And so I decided in the middle of January, I sent a text to my neighbor and said, I want to know about this, and I'm ready to do this program that you're doing. And so she said, okay, tomorrow we can get together at 9 o'clock if you're available, and we. And before I could say yes, she said, oh, wait a minute, I'm not doing anything now. Come on over. And I was already in my head going, oh, maybe she doesn't know who it's from. It'll get lost. She won't answer. She won't have time. All of these reasons why I shouldn't get involved with this crazy way of eating. And so she told me she'd found somebody that would be my sponsor if I would call them at a certain time that evening. So I promised that I would. I committed that I would. And we went over the gray sheet. I immediately came home, and everything that was not, I live alone, and everything that was not on the gray sheet went into garbage bags and into the trash and out of my house. And had to go to the grocery store because there wasn't an edible vegetable in the house. There were some, but I don't know how long they'd been there because they were probably some kind of science experiment by then. And so they were not edible. And so I went and got some vegetables and everything and started day one. On January the 31st, I was cooking my dinner and cooking some vegetables for the next day. And I just put everything on my plate, weighed and measured, and ate, and realized that what I was cooking for tomorrow, I put in with my food. And I immediately said, well, it's off the gray sheet. It's weighed. Don't have to tell anybody, don't have to call anybody, don't have to bother anybody. And all of these excuses and all of this justification for hours. 2 o'clock in the morning, I finally said, all right, I will call my sponsor. And so I went to sleep for about 4 hours. And at 6 o'clock, I called my sponsor, and she said, oh, you just made a mistake. And I said, well, yeah, I did. I made a mistake. But what happened after I made the mistake was not a mistake. It was my addict brain just run rampant and doing what it does, which is tell me that I can fudge. You've been doing this long enough. You can do this on your own. You don't need this. You can have 4.2. It's okay. You don't have to, cut off that little bit and now it's 3.9 and now you're trying to get to 4 point. You don't have to do that. That's silly. That's where my brain goes. And I realize that I absolutely have to be totally intentional when I'm dealing with food. I have to know exactly what it is that I've committed. I keep it written down, and I have to be focused on that. I can't be watching TV. I can't be listening to music. I, some people come to these meetings and turn their video off and do other things. I can't do that. If I'm in a meeting, I have to be present. That's why I take notes and I go back and read my notes and go, oh, yeah, that's good. I need to remember that because my brain is mush when it comes to being abstinent because it doesn't want to be. It, has all of these reasons why it doesn't need to be. And and I absolutely know I've been doing this since the 1st of February, 1 minute, 2022. And I have been granted this wonderful gift by my higher power. And I have lost 87 pounds. And I can walk today. This summer, I taught water aerobics. and I didn't do it from a chair. I did it standing up and leading, and I have, I went to the retreat in a boot because I had tendonitis in my Achilles tendon, but I went, and everything was fine. I was, afraid that I wouldn't be able to do the things that I needed to do, and everything was fine. And so trusting that I have a higher power that's working on my behalf is huge for me, because I haven't trusting other people, um, is very difficult for me, but it's getting easier because I can see now that being abstinent is the most important thing that I do. And I'm so grateful for these meetings and all of you. And that's my time. And like I said, talking is what I do best, so I can go on and on and on. But I love you all so much, and I love this meeting and being here with you. So thank you again for having me tonight.